Welcome to another episode of Unsavory Fellow. I am Nick James. I'm so excited to have my close buddy, Mel Rodriguez, join us today. Melvin.
Nick.
Love you, buddy.
I love you too,
Thanks
brother.
for being
Oh,
here.
shit.
There
we
goes
go.
his water. It's already off to a bad start.
Oh, man.
So before we start, which donut are you going to pick?
I don't know if I'm going to do a donut right now. I don't know if I, but if I would.
Okay.
Okay.
Look at them all.
Oof, the bacon is looking good.
This is a cream filled.
Yeah, I like.
This has got like chocolate.
I see
mint,
that.
Right? This is sprinkles.
See, you lost me with the mint, but I do the filling. I like the filling.
He just got $20. That's
Nice.
our new thing.
Yeah.
Right.
He knows me.
He knows
me.
He would. You're
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
He walked over and he looked at it. He goes, I think he's going to go for the cream filled.
It was a close tie between this, but when you said mint, that was it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Who had the bacon one?
I did. It
Bacon
was
was-
high risk, high reward. I didn't think you would.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Well.
it would have been amazing if you did.
Yeah.
Nobody believed it.
Yeah. Now Dylan knows me better. We've been around each other a lot.
That's right, because Dylan remodeled your kitchen.
I know.
Yeah.
Which was a mess.
Which was a mess.
Jeez.
Cut my fingers open like 3 times.
And Pearl had a crush on him.
That's right. And his little tiny daughter had a crush on you.
Did Dylan do a good job?
Dylan did a great job. He did a fantastic job. And our place was a mess. Yeah, and like, I don't know, we had Edgar over.
Yep. It's a family affair.
Edgar was, he's just such a sweet guy.
Edgar's a guy that worked with me and Dylan, who still does handyman stuff.
Yeah.
And he could do anything. He's from Guatemala.
It's amazing. Like, he went in there, he could do the tile, he could do electric, he did plumbing, the whole
plastering,
thing. Everything.
He could build a house. He started when he was, I think it was 8 years old when he started construction in Guatemala, humping concrete up steps. Became a framer.
See, that's so cool to me because, like, my brother does that. He frames houses and stuff like that. And I can't work with my hands at all. I mean, I like to paint.
You're pretty good. I've seen you're artistic.
Yeah,
with them.
I like to paint. I like to mold and stuff like that. But as far as, like, building things with screws and stuff like that, like, I need somebody. I try, and then I mess it up.
That's why you're
Can I curse? I fuck it up.
You can swing.
Big time, yeah.
But you're an actor.
That's right.
And which is
Hi.
Hey, Jim.
He just killed him.
So, but you're an actor.
Yeah.
And what's exciting is you got a new show out. It
Yes.
came out on just this past Thursday
Yeah.
on Netflix called The Residence.
The Residence.
And you're great in it.
Thank you, Nick.
So funny. I mean, it just came out.
It did.
And it's fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit about
Sure.
it?
So it's cool because it takes place at the White House, right?
Right.
But it's not what you usually see in the White House. It's not the politician part and all that stuff. It's the people who work at the White House.
Right. The
So it's
staff.
The staff. And so it's a murder mystery, like Clue or Knives Out. And first episode, someone gets killed and everyone's a suspect. And they're having this state dinner. They're having the Australians over for the state dinner. Huge state dinners going on. And everyone has to spend the night there and get questioned. So it's really, it's a really cool experience. It was because Shonda brought in a lot of people from, it's Shonda Land Productions, Shonda Rhimes. And so she's really into like actors. And she brought in a bunch of people from New York who'd done theater and stuff like that. And we all were together all the time.
Which is funny that you said that because last night I was watching another episode.
Yeah.
And I thought the same thing. It is like live theater.
Yes.
There's so many cast members
Yes.
all in one room working out a scene.
Yeah.
What's happening.
Right.
It looked like 10 at one point. There could
Well,
have been.
and that was the kind of the thing with Paul William Davies. He was the director and the creator of it. The thing that was really interesting was, and when reading the script was, he kind of pops in these people. You don't know who they are yet, but he starts to introduce them slowly. And it was really like a feat because you've got 50 people working there.
Well, which is interesting because even with you in the first episode, you're going through, which is cool how they showed the camera work goes through the White House, through all the different staff rooms and this and that. And then
The
we
belly.
get down. Yeah,
The
and then we
belly
get
of the
into the
White House.
belly
Yeah.
of the White House. And then you're sitting there, you're first introduced, you don't say anything,
No.
but you have this suspicious look on
Yeah.
your face and you go,
That's the guy.
he's a suspect.
Right. Yeah.
This guy could have done
And
it.
that's how he does. He goes in
Yeah.
and he pops on people. Could it be him? Could it be her? Could it be him? You know, and so
Yeah.
I love the way he did it. It was very smart, you know. And it's
Yeah.
a fun show and it's funny and
Super fun. Everybody's
and-
funny in it
very funny.
and really good.
yeah. Really
Who are
good.
some of the cast members?
So we've got Uzo Aduba as the lead detective.
Who's fantastic.
She's amazing. And we've got Randall Park, who's her partner in the FBI. And we've got Ken Marino. We've got, who else do we have in there? Man, we've got just a slew of amazing actors. There's just so many.
All good, great comedic timing too.
Really great.
Like she she reminds me, just there's certain scenes that she kind of reminded me of Columbo.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like Peter Falk.
Oh, yeah.
There was bits and pieces
Uh-huh.
of how she was assessing the crime scene.
Yes.
That reminded me of Peter Falk in
Yes.
Columbo. You know,
And
you guys
she-
don't know about
She's
Peter
so
Falk.
good.
Jim
And
does.
she talks about it at one point. Oh, yeah. You know who Columbo is, Jim?
Jim, of
Oh,
course.
Yeah.
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 Personally.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, man. He's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, Peter Falk, man.
Yeah.
Peter
Well,
Falk.
Jim's my age, so
Yeah.
We-
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Peter Falk. Did you ever see Peter Falk in? Was it Swingers? It was that thing. Not Swingers.
not
what was
Swinger.
what was that movie he's in? It's with Vince Vaughn and his partner, who he did everything.
No.
With. But he does this scene, and it's just he's fucking amazing.
Yeah, but she was kind of
She was very much like
little
that.
bits of it, right?
And she's on the spectrum a little bit and she's so good because of that. And she talks, she's a birder, you know what I mean? So she's always outside
Yes.
looking at birds and
Yes.
stuff. And she talks about how birds see things
yeah,
and they equate everything with food. So
Right.
everything else disappears but where the food is.
yeah,
And that's how she approaches things as a detective.
which is it was completely original. I've never
Totally.
seen anything like
Me
that.
neither.
Yeah.
No. It's great. We all need a laugh right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we can
totally.
always use a laugh, but especially right now. And like it delivers on that, which is
And
really
then,
cool.
how did you get into? We'll get into that in a little bit, but how did you come to that role?
Well, I got called probably like before the strike. And they said, you know, there's this script we really like you to read. The agent sent it to me, and I looked at it. I read the first script, and I was like, this is awesome. Like, if I can be a part of this, I want to be a part of this. And I guess, you know, the casting director, Meredith Tucker, who's really cool and likes me a lot, she said, yeah, you know, we should have Mel on. And I was like, fantastic, I'm in.
Great.
Yeah.
How easy, right?
Well, now.
Don't you wish
not
it was
before.
like that?
Yeah. Now.
I was just
for
telling
so
these-
many years it wasn't. You know, Nick, how
Oh.
it goes. Yeah.
You know, nobody shows up with a shotgun on his set out of nowhere. Did I tell you that happened to me?
What happened? Tell me.
I was on an independent film, great movie, great cast.
Yeah.
We're at this, the director at the last minute says, hey, Nick, I want to shoot something with you real quick. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know about it in the script.
Yeah.
But he's doing B-roll pickup shots. I go, yeah, let's go do it.
Yeah.
We show up at this location. It's this little abandoned looking building, a realtor. And I'm standing there and I get out of my truck. I walk up to this building. And all of a sudden you hear somebody go, hey, motherfucker, you better have a fucking permit. And we look over and there's a dude standing there with a shotgun and a gun on his waist with a badge on his neck.
Ready to go.
Yeah, but I thought like, oh, he's part of the show. You know, but then out of the corner of my eye, I see the director fucking bolting down the street. I swear to God.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it hits you. I go, he just fucking ran away, the director. This
is
must be
real.
a real. But I'm sure that doesn't happen.
Were you
on
freaked
this.
out for a second?
No, because it happened so fast.
You handle yourself so well and stuff like that.
Well, then this other old guy came out and goes, that guy, don't
Yeah.
worry about him. He thinks he's security of
Yeah.
everything. He
Yeah,
said
yeah.
something like that.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, back to your thing. I was just saying that because that doesn't happen on.
well,
your
no,
kind of shoots.
but
He's
I'll
a
tell
real
you,
actor.
Yeah, right. But I think that, like, you know, the cool thing, because I did stuff like that.
Yeah.
I love that, and it's like Cassavetes did. He didn't get
Yeah.
permits to do stuff. You know,
Right.
they just got together and they shot stuff. I think more stuff like that is starting to happen, which is really exciting. You get together with your friends and you
Yeah.
do stuff and you create stuff because the business is not, you know, it's in a flux right
Yeah.
now. You know, it's changing.
And when you started, though,
I did everything, Nick.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, because you're from Miami.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then how did you, when you were in Miami, how did you decide, like, at that point, you know, what age were you in Miami? Were you go, I want to be an actor?
Oh, man. You know, I was such a lost kid, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just kind of, you know, came from kind of a broken home. And,
Yeah.
you know, and there was just, I was just really confused about, like, what path to take. I was fucking around like crazy. And I didn't really have any, like, oversight, you know. I think both of my parents felt kind of guilty, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
About being bad parents. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they just said, you know, well, let's just let him do whatever he wants, you know? And they were busy with their stuff, you know? And so I was one of those kids who really early on, like 12, 13, we talked about this.
Yeah.
You know, I would stay out till 2 or 3 in the morning.
Right. And you were getting into trouble at 12 and 13
For sure.
in Miami.
In Miami during the 80s. And it was
During
a
the
crazy
80s.
time.
We love the 80s.
Miami Vice, bro.
Miami. So I send
All
Melvin.
the time.
I send him little Miami Vice clips all the time.
All the time.
Right?
All the time.
I do on
I'll go
Instagram.
to my DM and I'm like, there's another one. There
Just
he
because
is.
he's my only friend from Miami, I
Oh,
think that
dude.
he can relate.
Oh, for sure. Crockett, dude.
Right? I think I'm Crockett.
Who didn't want to be Crockett? Or Tubbs.
Or Tubbs.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it was the
I'd take
best.
either one
but
of those
you know, to
lives.
me, that's kind of cool because I only know Miami really from what I saw in Miami Vice.
Right.
So I think Melvin is kind of bitching just because you're from Miami.
Thank you. Well, they did cast a lot of locals down there.
Oh,
you
they
know?
had to, right?
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, you've got some, like, really good actors nowadays who, like, were kind of East Coast guys. Giancarlo Esposito, who's also in The Residence.
Okay.
Who else, man? You know, it was just such an interesting time, dude.
Yeah, so
You
then
know?
how did you in
It wasn't
Miami?
as, it was very flashy like it was. And Michael Mann was, he just killed it in his introduction of Miami.
Oh, yeah. It was like a
Every-
music video.
And I remember I'd go to Indiana, I had these cousins, and they'd be like, it's like Miami Vice, isn't it? And I guess some of it was.
Yeah.
If you went down to the beach, which was
Right.
really flat. Well, back then, not really, but there were certain parts where you'd go and it was really flashy, and you had the cars and the girls and
Right.
the outfits and the chains and the stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the tans.
The tans.
The razor stubble. I got some right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know,
I'm still
and
Don Johnson.
it's funny because a lot of guys, you know, the kind of the linen jacket and
Yeah.
those linen shoes.
That's right.
You know what I mean? They were out there.
So at this time,
I had a pair.
oh, of course.
Yeah.
So at this time, when did you go like, I think I want to be an actor? Like, how did it happen? How did the bug catch you?
You know, we were at this thing today on the beach, you and I. you
Yeah.
know, and there was a guy, the guy who was speaking, he said, you know, I don't know why I got picked. Remember?
Yeah, right.
But I feel so grateful to have been picked. And so, you know, it was a mess. My dad, I'll talk about my dad. My dad was the most loving guy in the world. And he really was an artist, you know, and he painted, but to make a living, he was a
Right,
house
was a
painter.
painter.
And so I'd go to work with my dad, and I was really I was done with school, you know? And so we'd move around a lot because, you know, it was my dad and I were like this dynamic duo, you know? We were friends.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that
Oh, I'd
dynamic?
love to.
Yeah.
So my dad was this compulsive gambler, you know what I mean? And he lived like an artist. He was bohemian, and we
Yeah.
moved from place to place. I counted recently, I think we moved like 21 times from the time I was.
Wow.
It's crazy. And so what would happen is, you know, I'd be going to this school and kind of meet up, start to get some friends. That looks like a good one. That's a good one.
I've
Very
been
cool.
waiting long enough. I'm not going to make it to the story. I'm going to get it now. We'll get it out of the way. Go ahead.
So you know, he would kind of like, you know, he'd get into kind of some hairy situation. We'd go, you know, it was this thing, we had credit at the bodegas, and that's kind of how
Right.
we eat. And then the credit would kind of go too high, you know,
Right?
and we'd have to switch bodegas. And then, you know, the bookies would kind of, you know, he'd run his limit, and we'd have to change locations. You know what
Wow.
I mean? And
So you're kind of like on the run in a way.
a little bit, yeah.
It's kind of exciting. On the
Yes.
land with your dad.
And we had this whole deal, you know, I'd go to work with him, you know, if he needed a job. We'd
Painting?
go, yeah. And so I'd go, I was the young kid. And I think some of the people kind of took pity on him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This older guy with this good kid. He's trying to make it right. And I'd play it up,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Right.
And we'd get the jobs.
So
you
this is
know?
like the beginning of your acting career.
For sure. There were auditions,
Wow.
for sure.
I never thought
I never
of it like
thought of that either. No.
I mean, you and I've talked about this stuff, but I've never thought of it in that way. You go, that's like you're
Yeah,
a natural actor.
for sure. And also, it was a very scary time. And I bluffed my way out of many situations.
What was scary? Like, what can you think of?
Well, you
Want a
know, it was,
coffee?
I'm good. I'm gonna have a sip of water. But it was just one of those situations where you had a lot of guys on steroids and cocaine, and they were.
I was on that combo.
and on Cuban. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And on Cuban or Colombian or
Yeah.
Nicaraguan or whatever country kind of exiled their community and came there. And everybody was like, I've got to show that I came here and I made it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're going to eat my donut, aren't you?
Did you? I think you didn't
Just
want
save
it.
half of it for
Okay.
later.
I figured I'd just taste them
It's
all.
weird eating on camera.
I don't care. At
For me,
first
I feel
was, but I was like,
self-conscious. I've been
just-
fat all my life.
we just hang out and we're shooting the
That's
shit,
true.
having donuts and coffee.
I love it.
But go on.
So, so it was just this time where everybody had a lot to prove, and there were a lot of scary things going on.
Yeah.
And it was a lot like Miami Vice or Scarface for that matter.
Yeah, Scarface.
Everyone wanted to be Scarface. That was the dream.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to be Scarface. You came there. You came to America. You made good. The world is mine.
When you saw a
lot of egos.
When you saw a movie like that let's say somebody's hot. Miami Vice changed everything. It set the tone, the style, the culture of the '80s
For sure. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
As did
Scarface. Yeah.
So as you're a kid growing up in Miami, and you don't have a bunch of money. Your dad's
No.
a painter. You're going around hustling. Does any of that stuff where you go, because you're so close to it? Do you ever think were you at that time? Were you thinking I could be him?
Unfortunately, yeah. And those
Right?
guys were my idols.
I could be Tony Montana.
Yeah.
Or do you also think any of that where you go, man, I'd like to be an actor?
Well, we had not actor at all. Definitely
Okay.
that, but my dad always reminded me that's king for a day.
Oh,
King for a day.
King for a day.
Because I'd tell him, Dad,
Never heard
I
of
have
that.
these opportunities to come in here and we could make a lot of money. And he would
Right.
say, king for a day.
I like that.
Yep.
That's so true. That's so on point. King
And
for a
all of the
day.
guys, and those guys would get pumped. And you'd see them around the neighborhood. You'd see a guy who got big.
Yeah.
He'd start building on this 1-story house and make it fucking 10 stories in Little Havana and have these gigantic saints in the front yard. And every bit of square footage he could use on his land, he'd occupy it
Yeah.
with house and, gun turrets and weird shit.
Yeah.
And so this house would be in construction. And then all of a sudden it'd stop. And you'd be like, oh, Jose got popped,
Wow.
And then you'd know his kids,
Yeah.
and their dad was in jail.
Right.
And, the kids were really hurting. And so, I hung out with those kids and we had access to all that blow and shit. You know
Well,
what
I
mean?
remember you talking about the leopard, right?
Well, that guy was my hero. That was Domingo.
Listen to this.
So this guy, Domingo, he was
Domingo.
he was the
Domingo. Domingo.
He was the Scarface of our neighborhood.
Right.
The thing with me was I was half Irish. My mom was full on Tennessee mountain woman.
Right.
We have a very
Yeah.
similar thing with
Hillbilly
our moms,
mamas.
hillbilly mamas. And so I never felt fully Cuban. I never felt fully Anglo, and I
Right.
felt always kind of out of place. And I feel like I had a lot to prove too.
Yeah.
My uncle was kind of a wealthy guy in that neighborhood. He was
Yeah.
kind of like my dad would say, the El Bisco en la Casa de los Ciegos, which was like the cross-eyed guy in the House of the Blind. You know what I mean?
Say that again.
The
first of all.
cross-eyed guy in
No,
the House of the
was-
Blind. Bisco en la Casa de los Ciegos.
Wow.
So he's a big shot, you know what
Yeah,
I mean? But he's
yeah.
still cross-eyed, around a bunch of blind people, you know what I mean? So he's a big shot. So he had these restaurants, Cuban restaurants, and he was wealthy in that capacity. And I felt small, and there was this thing that I felt like I had a lot to prove, and I had to prove it to my dad. And so I'd see guys like Domingo, and he had the drop-top Mercedes, and he would, not a leopard, he'd ride around with a panther.
Oh, panther.
A panther
Big difference.
that he had declawed and detoothed
Wow.
with a huge gold chain around its neck,
Around the panther.
around the panther's neck. And he had a gigantic gold chain. And he was the guy. And
Yeah.
he'd come to the park and he'd walk his panther around. We'd fucking pet the panther. He's like, it's okay. He's fucking tons of steroids and coke and just
Yeah.
And he was the guy, and he was stoic, and he was big, and he was strong, and I was a kid,
Yeah.
you know,
Domingo.
And I looked, and and I have a funny story, so I'll tell you how it happened. Wow, this is back to the thing, like I don't know why God picked me, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm fucking up, and I have this friend, this great friend, this guy George, and he's my guy, but he's getting in trouble a lot, and he gets popped, you know, for some bullshit, stealing a car or something, I can't remember. But he gets out, he robs this drug dealer's chain, and we're sitting there, and the Suns shows all of us. We were all like, "That's a bad idea." We're at this party, he robs his chain, and he beats him up, and we're like, "Fuck, you shouldn't have done that." He's so and so's son.
Yeah.
And so we all have lunch out. I went to Miami High. And we all have lunch out in this kind of like parking area. And all of a sudden, this dude pulls up in this fucking badass Jaguar, you know? Gets out, the big chain. Who stole my fucking son's chain? You know what I mean? And he pulls out this fucking 45. And he's like, who stole my fucking son's chain? You know? And George, who was really, you know, he had a lot of balls. You know, he was one of those guys, and, you know, he's got caught up in the system and stuff like that. But he was one of those guys who, like, was really sensitive, but also really tough. You know, he was strong. He was one of those guys who just, his bones were just strong. And he stood up and he said, I stole the fucking chain. He was like, get on your fucking knees. And he was going to shoot him in the head. And we were all sitting there, we were all petrified. And it was this moment where it's like, do I jump up and try to tackle this guy? He's really big. Do we all get together? None of us knew what to do. We were kind of choked.
How old are you?
Oh, God. 16?
Wow.
And I'd seen stuff like this before, but, you know, with a buddy, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, he starts to go onto his knees, and I'm like, fuck, he's going to fucking execute him right here. And he knocks the gun out of his fucking hand, and he just fucking makes a beeline. The guy's dad grabs the gun and just starts shooting. We're at his high school.
Yeah.
Openly just starts firing. So the story is George ran off, and he fucking got shot in the arm, and he didn't know he was shot. And I don't know, something about that and several other things. I saw this direction that was really bad, and I was a reinventor. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
Well, because I'd go to all these different high schools and all these different places, and every time I'd have to reinvent myself.
Right.
So who are you going to be to this group of people?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
What's your thing going to be? Is it going to be the kind of badass like gangster, or are you at the thing where there's a bunch of preppy kids and you're going to start wearing Izod shirts and stuff?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, what's it going to be?
Yeah.
And so I would have to kind of, you know, do this thing where it was a metamorphosis of sorts.
Yeah.
And I'd be the guy that I thought everybody wanted me to be, who fit in. We've talked about this before, you know? And, you know, and this was the time where I was like, oh, man, I'm back at Miami High. This is kind of the gangster shit.
Yeah.
I don't want to be involved in this. And I remember the next day, I was at school. I'm going to stop skipping school, and I'm going to start going to class, you know?
Yeah.
Because I was not going to class. I didn't care about school. And I remember I went to study hall, and there was this girl there. Her name was Janet. She was really cute. I was like, man, I'm digging on her. And she was kind of like, you know, we were into each other. We were having these conversations. And she said, you know, after school, there's going to be this acting kind of like, you know, this class we do. And it's improv. And you just go in there and you just do stuff. And I was like, yeah, you're cute. I'll follow you there. And it was after school, and I was like, cool. So, you know, I'd been in juvenile detention center and stuff like that. And I was kind of like, that was the role that I guess I was kind of.
You're going down that path.
I was going down that path. And so I remember they said, do you want to get up? It was it was end of school, and we all get on the stage in this big theater in Miami High. Yeah. And it was dark, and there was something about the smell. And I just don't know what it was, but everybody just sitting around and gathered, this community. And it was all the misfits and the outsiders. And for some reason, I just felt at home, you know?
Wow.
And I remember...
What do you think that was that made you feel at home? What was it? Can you...
I think it was just private, you know? And it was so connected.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I felt safe.
Yeah, wow.
You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
That was a big deal in my...
You felt safe.
I felt safe.
In an acting class.
Yeah.
Which for me was the complete opposite.
Right.
Because for me, It almost to me sounds like when you went into that acting class, you kind of like let go, let your shoulders down, and surrendered a little bit. For where me,
sure.
I kind of when I got into an act class, I went the opposite. I didn't understand. Like, it was more important for me, for you to think I'm fucking cool, not a good actor. I'm
Yes.
still in here. You
Yeah.
know. That's interesting.
Well, I looked around, people were doing stuff.
Yeah.
And I saw, and for some reason I thought, it clicked for me. I've been doing this my whole life.
Yeah.
What they're doing, and I can do it a lot better than that.
What
Not
do
that it was, you
and
know
how
what I mean?
amazing at 16 that you have that revelation.
Yeah.
That's really something.
Yeah.
Early.
Very early.
Wow.
And thank God.
Yeah.
So they asked me, do you want to get up there? And I said, yeah, you know. So I get in this chair, you know, and I think, what am I going to do? And I light up this cigarette on stage because I knew the teacher smoked. I'd see her out there with like
Right.
two students smoking together.
Yeah.
And I light up this cigarette and I start talking about this guy, you know. I just got out of juvenile detention center, blah, blah, blah. You know, badass, you know.
Yeah.
Like fucking, what's his name in fucking Giant, you know?
Yes.
I'm fucking, you know, Dean.
Yeah,
Dean
Dean.
Martin. I mean, not Dean Martin. James Dean.
James Dean. Dean
James
Martin.
Dean. Dean Martin. My brain. It's not fully, you know,
Dino and Sinatra.
Dino Sinatra, dude. And I got up there and I smoked this cigarette and I start telling this story about, you know, how I'm this and I'm that and I'm doing this stuff and I end up here and blah, blah, blah. And I end it. And everybody was fucking silent. And I knew I kind of captivated people in some way.
Yeah.
And I remember I looked at the teacher who's standing in the back and she made eye contact with me. She had a smile on her face.
Wow.
You know?
Well, you know what's funny? That was truth. You brought truth into what you did. You brought your reality of your life experience
To this moment.
to that moment.
And Nick,
That's acting.
it is. And here's what happened next. This girl says, wow, was that true?
Mm.
And I had a moment to reinvent myself again.
Mm.
I looked at the teacher and I knew she saw something in me. And I had a chance right in that moment to say either yes or no. And I said, nah.
Wow.
And boom.
Because if you would have said the other thing,
That's the thing. That's what I
you're
am.
just that guy. You're,
You're
not
that
an
guy.
actor.
No.
You're just some
You're
punk
just some
that walked
punk.
off the street into our classroom.
Right. Who's telling his story.
Yeah.
No, this is different. This isn't.
Oh,
me.
that's great.
And she came up to me after class and she said, I'd like you to do this play with me. And it was called The Inner Circle and it was about AIDS because AIDS was a big thing.
Yeah. Right.
And people were popping up HIV positive all over the place. And I remember, do you remember The Real World? Do you remember Pedro Zamora? He was on one of the first Real Worlds.
I remember it, but I never watched it, but I remember it, definitely.
So he was gay and he contracted the AIDS virus.
Right.
And so we'd go with this, it was so powerful. We'd go with this play and we toured. We went to different high
Oh,
schools
wow.
and colleges.
You're like really acting like you're a real actor at this point.
Well, and you're doing it for a purpose. You're doing it for AIDS awareness. You know what I
Right.
mean? And afterwards, Pedro would do this Q&A. And he talked to people, asked people to ask questions, you know, can you get it from kissing? He's like, well, if you both have cuts in your mouth and yada, 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 if you've been eating Doritos or brushed your teeth really hard, you know. And so, you know, it was really cool. And then, dude, it was just a God shot. We go to the Dade County Detention Center. And we're in there and we're putting on the play for these guys who are in jail. And, you know, they're older guys. And I do it, and that moment happens again where everybody's quiet. And I know that we've made a connection with the audience. And it was powerful. And I look around, because I kind of go into this place where I kind of, you know, I put up a fourth wall where I just don't see anyone, you know?
Yeah.
It's great for a guy who's insecure because you can disappear and you have
Right.
all the words,
Right.
you know? And so I remember looking out, and who do I see in the audience? Domingo.
No way.
Swear to God.
Wow.
And he's in there, and he's in the jumpsuit, you know what I mean?
Right.
And he says, hey, Mel, what's up? I said, holy fuck, he's talking to me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Domingo, what's up, man? How are you doing? And he's crying.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, fuck.
Wow. That hits you. What is that?
I don't know, man. It was just, you know, this guy was so tough. You know what I mean? And in that moment, I saw the kid in him, you know? And he pulled me aside and he said, hey, Mel. He said, I'll never forget this. He said, I did something, or they think I did something to someone. And I'm going to go upstate and I'm going to be there for probably a long time. He said, you got something. He said, get the fuck out of here.
Wow.
And he was my
beautiful.
hero, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what a weird hero to have, but it was just
But you
the
know what?
environment.
Yeah,
man.
you got that recognition from your hero in a completely different way.
He was like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
This is where it lands you, which is what my dad had told me all along. It's king for a day, and there's your hero, man. He's in
Yeah.
fucking jail. You know?
But isn't that interesting, though?
Ah.
How that this guy, who you would think you would need to get recognition from him the other way, the path he
Yeah,
went.
for being a tough guy.
No, he saw you going this way, and he recognized that as something
Yeah.
to be proud of.
And I had
you
a
know?
lot of people that, you know, when I started doing this thing, they were like, he's doing this AIDS awareness play. Mel's gay. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. And he's got AIDS.
And
Yeah.
he's got it.
And I've seen him on Miami Beach hanging out with, you know, and he's gay. And I had to take a lot of shit for that. You know what I mean? And I was like, you know, whatever. I became cool with it. And I was like, you know, whatever.
I just can't believe it.
I just love this.
People are so gnarly.
They're so, dude. Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Not only are you gay, but you
I
have
have
AIDS, and you're hanging out at Miami Beach. Maybe in a Speedo, a gold Speedo. I don't know.
Something like that. You know, it was interesting times.
Wow, that's an amazing story.
Yeah.
You've never told me that part of that
No,
story.
I don't think I
that's
have.
fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
So then, now you're
So that's it. I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
That's it. I know. There's no question in my mind
Yeah.
that this is what I need to do. I feel comfortable in my skin when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
For a guy that's insecure and doesn't know what to say and feels awkward in situations, I'm given all the words. I know exactly
Yeah.
what I'm going to say. Even when I don't know what to say as the character, I know what to say. And I love people.
Yeah.
I love the way they move. I love characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love watching. I was always a watcher, and I'd taken in all that information. You know?
Dude, you are. I made a little video this morning for people to ask questions to put in the comments.
Yeah.
And I said, you're an actor's actor.
Thank you, Nick.
If you're an actor, you know, like me, I look at you and I go, that's a fucking real actor. You know what I mean? You see somebody that, like, with that story you told, it's like it's in your bones, it's in your heart. You know, it's something you have to do. And I remember, you know, listening to I think it was Brolin. Josh Brolin said it once. He said something like, it's something that it's something you have to do, and if you don't do it, you're gonna die. It's
That's
that
it.
kind of thing.
It's your dharma. It's your
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
And knowing Josh and his book and his past.
Don't get me started.
But you know what I mean? Like,
supposed to be here. No,
He'll be
he's
on.
coming. He's coming. We've just
you
been
know-
waiting a long time.
Yeah.
No, go on.
Well, he's got the book and the press, and
I
he's
know.
a busy dude.
He's beautiful. Go on.
Yeah. And so, you think about that, and after reading that, like, yeah, of course we did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had to be all these different people for different things and reasons and stuff like that, and the fear and the stuff like that, and the motivation.
Yeah.
You know? And he had his family was involved in the business. Mine wasn't at all.
Yeah.
But I knew immediately, I was like, this is the only thing. And
Yeah.
I had one eye. And I remember there were these guys that we do these places. We tour these plays.
Mm-hmm.
And it was called the Florida Theater Conference. And I got recognition. People kept saying, you're good.
Yeah.
And here's a trophy. And here's this. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I'll never forget this one time we were at the Dade County Conference. And I won Best Actor.
Oh, that's a big deal.
And they said, the best actor goes to Mel Rodriguez for The Inner Circle.
Yeah.
And
It legitimizes you.
I thought, this is real. I can
Yeah.
really maybe do something. Walking down that aisle, taking the thing and saying, wow,
Yeah.
I'm good at something. I wasn't good at anything.
So then
I tried everything. I was like, I thought I wanted to be a boxer. I think I've told you about this.
Yeah. But
I
so
was
then
not that.
so now you're an actor. You've got
Yeah.
the chops.
Yeah.
Right. What's like one of the first real big roles that you got?
Well, I'll tell you the first big thing.
Because I know you've done a gazillion things, but what's like the
Well,
where we would
do you want to
know-
get into roles, or do you want me to tell you about the big thing that kind of the thing that also said you are?
Give me the big, let's get into that.
Okay, so the big thing was this. There were these kids who went this kind of like uppity, cool school, and they were like, it was called New World School of the Arts.
Okay.
And that's where the people, it was all an art school.
Yeah.
And I remember I was out there and these guys were talking and this guy said, I'm going to SUNY Purchase. He was like, it's either Juilliard or SUNY Purchase. And I was like, I know I got to get into one of those schools. I didn't know anything. I'd never even been to New York.
Yeah.
And he said that because coming out of his mouth, I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He goes to the New World School of the Arts. I just go to Miami High. I'm going to Purchase. I'm going to SUNY Purchase.
Mm.
And they were auditioning. And I went in and I auditioned. And I was probably, just raw.
Yeah.
But I found out I got in. And, thousands of people would audition for this school. And I was like, wow, I got into this school.
Yes.
It must be good. And they gave me a scholarship.
It's
And
amazing.
Before I went, we needed $2,000, I remember, or I couldn't go. And I remember my dad's name is Lazaro.
Mm-hmm.
And we were, just such a dreamy, beautiful life I had with him, man. He was my friend, my best friend. And I remember we were talking, we have to pray to San Lazaro. We have this little statue of San Lazaro.
Right.
We're going to pass this cigar and we're going to blow smoke to San Lazaro.
Oh, that's
so
what
that
an
it reaches
image.
the heavens. Yeah. And there's a number. That everything is, my dad, everything is numbered. You have a dream.
Yeah.
And it was the monkey. And the monkey is number 5. Or I dreamt of this. Or somebody talked about a snake. And the snake, there's a number for everything, right?
Oh, wow.
It's called the Chinese I can't remember what the name is. But anyways, so he played San Lazaro that night. And we won.
Really?
$5,000.
Really?
Big. He hit big.
No shit.
And I was able to go to school because of that.
And you're doing all the ritual, the blowing the cigar
Blowing
smoke.
smoke and the San Lazaro.
Dude, that's awesome.
But
And then
prayer,
you
but
win.
prayer is powerful.
Yeah.
I still believe to this day how powerful prayer is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I don't pray necessarily to San. I pray to God, San Lazaro,
You're
whatever.
not doing the cigar blowing.
I don't do the
when you
cigar
pray,
blowing
or-
anymore. No. My dad was very superstitious. So there was
Right.
no hats on the bed, bad luck.
Right.
This, that, bad luck. And I don't want to teach that to my kids because I grew up with a lot of fear surrounding that stuff.
Yeah.
So I throw my fucking hat on the bed in front of my kids, and I do the complete opposite.
I'm a little superstitious when it comes to Dylan. He doesn't know this.
Yeah.
April knows this.
Yeah.
Him playing rugby.
Sure.
If she talks about, you're not allowed to talk about anybody. You don't talk about anybody getting hurt.
Right.
Especially don't mention his name. If we do, we knock wood on my head or do that. I do
Like
that.
saying
I
Macbeth
can't.
in the theater.
Yeah, don't.
You don't do it.
I get pissed off.
Yeah.
Well, I hope I go, don't tell me about his hip if his hip okay. I don't want to hear it. Don't bring that shit out
I
there.
get that. And I still
kinda
have,
get,
I get that.
Don't put it out there.
Don't even put it in the
No, that's
fucking
a lie,
universe.
yeah.
Yeah, I get that. And I still do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
Why? You could manifest some of it, I feel like. That's my thing.
I don't
Not
like
that
to
we're
live,
that
you know me,
powerful.
I don't like to live in that place of negativity. It's a waste of time for me.
Oh, Nick.
You know what I'm saying?
You changed my life with that stuff. You're one of my best friends.
Oh, that's sweet. Look at him. Don't
I
get me
love you
crying
so
now.
much,
I mean,
man.
'cause I've already done that a lot.
But I
on
remember
here.
you changed something for me. You know what I mean?
What's that?
Many things. But there was this day, I don't know if you remember, but there was a while ago, I was doing this movie,
Yeah.
and I was stuck in Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Oh, yeah.
And I called you and I said, fuck, Nick, I'm stuck in Dallas. You know what I mean? They've had me here for 2 days and I'm fucking pissed.
Right.
And you said, where are you? I said, I'm in the fucking captain's lounge and I think I lost this. He said, in the captain's lounge? And I was like, yeah, man, I'm fucking pissed. He's like, where are you going to stay tonight? I said, I don't fucking know. He said, probably a really cool hotel, huh? What an adventure.
That's right.
And I know, everybody who kind of does you because you're such a, you know what I mean? But nobody can do you without smiling.
Ah.
That's what you bring. You know what I mean? God, me and you, we're such softies,
Big crybabies.
Big
Big tear
crybabies.
fest.
Thank God.
Unsavory fellow.
Thank God. But thank God I can be vulnerable today. Thank God we can be vulnerable. And we don't have to, do that thing.
It's just to be able to sit here and sit with you, and we get to reflect on how good it is right now and how we got here is so crazy. And I say this every show. It's like the idea that you get to have that, You get to have two lives in one, which
That's
is
right.
amazing.
It's another life.
Yeah. You got these great stories about growing up on Miami, talking about Domingo and the Panther, and
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I don't know why we get to have the second chance. I don't know why.
I don't
All
either.
I know is that when I did get sober,
Yeah.
when I got sober, I clearly knew
Yeah.
this was it. I was like, this is it, man.
Yeah.
Don't fuck it up. You don't have another chance. In my mind, I still to this day, I am so grateful, that we're just sitting here right now because what we were just talking about, like you said,
Man,
some
danger
of the
zone.
guys in your neighborhood, they're gone.
Well, and I think that's why, honestly, I went back out from time to time.
Yeah.
It was because, and I thought about this,
Yeah.
you work it out and but I think I had a lot of survivor's remorse about why me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my guys died.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are in jail. And just about 5 years ago, because they were getting these crazy bids, I'd have these guys call me up, Mel, what's up? 25 years in jail. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And Mel, what's up? George called me. What's up, Mel? What are you doing? We got to meet up down here in Miami. You
Yeah.
know? And he had spent 3 years in this ADSEG, which is not ADSEG, in the shoe.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how he lost his mind and it became another reality. And I thought, fuck, man. Like, why me?
Yeah.
Why me? And I don't know. I don't know, Nick. I mean, I didn't do some of the stuff that obviously got him there.
Yeah.
But why, maybe I would have. Why did I have that day where I met Janet and I ended up in that class with Marty Hancock, my teacher, my high school teacher, who was the first person in my life to believe in me and say, you're good at something.
Well,
Why did I get that?
This to me, like, me, I've talked about this lots of times. We really do have these God shots.
Yeah.
Something happens.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, at that moment, you're beat down so bad. To me, that moment of clarity, to me, is like a window that opens up. It's just there. It pops up out of nowhere.
Yep.
For whatever reason, in that moment, I can hear and I can see I need to jump through that window. And if I don't do it, it shuts.
And forever, maybe.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, we get these God shots again. For whatever reason, we got lucky, and I don't know what made us jump through, but it's the unknown.
It's the unknown. It's super scary.
It's complete unknown. I'm gonna fucking do it.
But something says,
Yeah,
get in there.
and it's also scary to go through and go. I can't leave this life because the life I'm in now, which is all drugs and alcohol, it's keeping me alive in a weird way from blowing my head off. Let's say, not to be dramatic,
But it's the hamster wheel.
Yeah, if I can stay high and drunk long enough, it's the way I was.
Right.
If I can stay high and drunk long enough, I don't have to look at all this pain that I'm carrying around and all
God.
the resentments and anger and the fear. It's really fear, right?
All of that shit.
But when that window opens, for whatever reason, we jump through.
That's right.
And it closed behind us.
That's right.
And in my opinion, it'll open behind us too.
Right.
We got to keep going forward.
Always.
Doing what we're doing, which I beat this horse to death so many times. It's service, though.
It is.
You're of service. I got to be of service.
That's right.
If
And we don't regret the past or wish to shut the door on it.
No, we.
That's
right.
We see how our experience can benefit others.
Look at this great
What a
story
gift.
you just told us.
Yeah. And that's why I'm not afraid to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. It's your
Because
life. It's my life.
I have to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have to stay alive. And then you realize, oh man, I was just on the beach with a guy.
Yeah.
And you realize, oh yeah, the gift is in giving.
Yeah.
That's where the real gift is at. That's where the real goodness is at.
You
Because
know-
all our lives it was like me,
That's
what
right.
am I getting, blah, blah, blah. You
And
know?
that'll all come. Look at what's happening for you. I remember you being. Another time you were stuck,
Yes.
and I think you were in.
Palm Springs?
No. I think you were in New Orleans, maybe.
Yes.
And you were trapped
I was
in between
trapped on a job.
on a job.
Yeah.
And what was crazy was it was a rough situation. I think it was during the pandemic.
It was
too.
COVID. There was a lot of
Yeah.
stuff going on politically, and you
Yeah,
know, it
that's
was,
right.
It was,
Was there a strike?
and I think I had some PTSD going on.
you had that.
Well, no, there were all these riots and stuff like that. That the
Yeah.
stuff, and it was really tense. and I could feel that tension in the air. It reminded me of back home because I knew that there's that. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, but here's what I was gonna say is like with you, you're so giving, and I think that you have to be like I always say, if I'm giving or listening or helping somebody else, I get to get out of that self-centered thing that I wake up with every day, and I get to get out of the ego and all that stuff. And then you get into this place of trust, which I've watched you constantly helping guys, constantly working with guys. And you're not even worried about all that, your movie career coming back or any of that stuff. And look what's happened.
Well, it doesn't matter as much.
No,
Nick.
it doesn't matter. It's second, it's third.
Right.
You got this beautiful family with this awesome wife and these two beautiful daughters.
And you can't see it sometimes.
You can't see it.
Which is amazing.
Oh, dude.
Because now you can.
I mean, the best part of your whole life is you have a swimming pool.
And I'll tell you, here's a story.
Who's got a swimming pool?
We were in apartments, and there were these girls next door who lived to us.
Yeah.
And they had a swimming pool. 2 girls.
Right.
And it would break our hearts. We'd hear them as kids
Having fun.
They'd have it fun. They'd have these parties, and they wouldn't invite us because we were the troubled ones. You know what I mean?
That's
Our
right.
house, the lights get turned off. Mom drinks a lot. All this stuff.
Yeah.
And we could hear that. And my girls have the pool now.
That's
They're those
right.
girls. They're those girls, man.
See, they get to pick on the neighbors now.
Yeah, totally. There's a little kid next door crying.
Yeah. She, Stella,
Yeah.
She gets to walk to school and rub it in that girl's face if they got a pool.
But I think the biggest thing, man, is that the other day I took the girls to school, and their central nervous systems, man, they're just totally regulated, and they're happy to go.
Yeah.
And they're in crisp, nice clothes, and they don't smell bad. And they have this, they had a nice little breakfast.
Right.
And then my wife makes them these sandwiches. She cuts the edges off, and they're these little sandwich fingers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I drive up, and we go to the turn thing, and their mascot is a unicorn, right?
Right.
And they have these parents dressed up as unicorns. And I think,
wow. The dream. Living the dream. And then now that you've got all that, you've got your family, you've got your career, you've got this show out.
yeah.
What's next?
I'm working with a buddy right now because I really want to do something. I think I lost my way for a while, and I've gotten it back.
How do you mean?
Well, because it becomes about the things,
Yeah, yeah.
and it becomes about the accolades and the awards and the this and
Right.
the that, and you lose yourself.
Yeah.
And people start to tell you how amazing you are, and they laugh at all your jokes, and people that you're surrounding with are only on the payroll now.
Right.
So you're amazing. Everything you do is amazing. You start to believe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think you can get lost, and as a poor kid who grew up now has some money thrown at him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think I got a little lost. And this time it's about if this is the thing. And I had to ask God, is this the thing?
Mm-hmm.
And God said, yeah, that's the thing, man. And so this time around, I've had to really ask myself, why are you doing this? And it's because of the stuff you did when you were in Dade County Jail and you touched Domingo's heart.
Right.
Who wasn't a tough guy. He was just a scared little boy.
Mm-hmm.
A scared, unpredictable little boy. And all of us are, man. We're just little kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all 13th grade,
Oh, yeah.
And we're all just trying to, and I had to come back and remember why. And I took a class. I said, I want to pay.
Oh, yeah.
I want to pay to go back to basics.
Yeah.
Break it down. I want to know, why are you entering the room? Why are you doing this? Who are you?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
And I found that love again, man, and why it really mattered to me. And you were there for all of that.
Yeah.
And why? And
I did the same thing. I went back to the theater. You know?
And
It's
the
the
theater
greatest thing for me.
So we're writing this story about an actor who kind of loses his way. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
wow.
And has to come back and he's doing some regional show like in, buttfuck whatever. You know what I mean? And he's just there and he's pissed,
Yeah.
But he's got to find out, like, is this really something you want to do with your life? Is this really what, you know what I mean?
So
Like,
are you
really,
gonna-
when it comes down to the nitty gritty.
Are you going to direct this? Do you something you want to direct?
Well, that's the thing too. I want to start directing. So I'm going to co-direct
the
this with my
lead?
buddy, and I'll be the lead.
Okay.
And when I have stuff, he'll jump in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we did a really great film together called Fat.
Yeah, I know. Fat's great.
and we
Should
produced
watch
it.
that.
And we did it ourselves.
It's on
we wrote
Amazon.
it together. It's on Amazon. And it's this little movie that we made for nothing.
Yeah.
And it went to TIFF, it went to the Toronto Film Festival. And we just did it for the love. We didn't know that any of that stuff was going to happen. You know what I mean? But we'd just do stuff, and then the editor would appear. And then we'd do stuff, and we needed money for but we just went in, we got into action. And I think a lot of us right now, because the business is weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had COVID, we had the strikes, and I have a lot of friends who are like not working, people who work consistently.
Yeah.
Who don't have anything to do. And it's starting to, it's that thing where you just got to ask yourself, like, am I an actor?
Yeah.
Am I really an actor?
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
When it's not about that stuff and it's not as easy.
Am I doing it for the love of the craft?
Right.
You know?
Or am I going to go go into sales?
Let me ask you. Let me see if we got any questions. We don't have any questions?
None.
You know why? Maybe nobody puts any. You know why I think? Nobody wants our fucking hats.
Nobody wants your hats?
I say if you put a question in, you could win a hat.
What? Let me see the hat.
We don't have any.
No? Oh. They know. It's the vibe, dude.
These guys don't have hats.
They don't.
Doing this thing out of his garage.
Right.
Well, let me ask some questions because
Yeah.
I got questions.
Okay.
So, first of all, who did you really connect with and enjoy working with on The Residence?
Oh, man. That's a hard one. Uzo.
Yeah.
She was very giving, and she's from the theater,
right.
and she's there with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Giancarlo's that way, too. Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah.
He is old school, He is just a guy that is just completely present with you. He's also a meditator.
Oh, yeah?
And I do that. I do that on set. A lot of people think I'm weird, but, it's interesting because you start to...
You sit there, you'll be out in the open and you'll shut your eyes and
Well, I used to
meditate?
do it in auditions, right?
Okay.
And I'd be the meditating guy.
Yeah.
People are like, and I always
Look
thought,
at
do they
this
think,
guy.
yeah, right, he's meditating.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I had to do it because my brain would get so loud.
Yeah.
And I had an objective, and I had to stay in that place because when you go into the room, you want to do what you intended to do.
Yeah.
And it would always keep me there. And it's funny because when you do these auditions, you come up with these actors.
Yeah.
And like Johnny Pemberton, we're a guy that kind of came up together, or like, back in the day, like Franco.
Yeah.
And he'd say, I'd always see you in there and you'd be meditating.
Right.
And I always thought, I wonder what that's all about.
Yeah.
And now I meditate all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you never know how
Yeah.
you're going to affect somebody else with the goodness that you do. Because that,
Yeah.
meditation saved my life.
That's
Prayer
a great,
is...
That's a great tip. It's a great technique and a tip for any actor, not just any actor. Or if you're going in on a job interview, you want to be
Yes.
centered, clear-minded,
Yes.
calm.
Right.
What about
loose? Because that's what it's about. You want to dance. Whatever comes at you,
Yeah.
how does this character react to those things?
Right. It's about listening.
Listen.
Right?
It's all listening and being. It's very simple. People talk a bunch of shit about stuff and what it is. Essentially, it's can you be this and can you listen well?
What about so
With everything, with your ears and your eyes, and listen with your whole body.
what actor would you like to work with that you haven't worked with?
I've never worked with De Niro, and he's getting old. You know what I mean? And I fucking love De Niro.
Wouldn't that be something?
Oh, man.
It could happen.
It could happen. You never know.
You're in the game.
I'm in the game.
Okay, what about a female actor? What female actor?
Oh, God. Glenn Close,
Yes.
Viola Davis.
Yes. Wow.
Powerhouse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? God, there's so many, man. There's so many people that I'd love to work with, but I just think of Glenn Close.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Remember Fatal Attraction?
Oh, man. And I mean, Viola and her are like the queen bees, Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep's another one. Everything she does.
Would you be intimidated if you worked with any of them? Would it be intimidating?
And meditation helps me with that. And so does this thing we do. Because
But what
I know,
about with them? I mean, you've worked with tons of big stars.
Yeah.
But
I might.
Huh?
I might with them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's hard to get over.
Let me ask you this. So in a situation like
but we're all
that,
humans,
because I was, somebody said something to me on this little movie I was on recently, wanted to run lines with me and stuff like that. And I love to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Is that something when you're working with these big stars where
Love to. And
But
and
do
the
they
good
do it?
ones, they want it.
So would you go up to, like, let's say Glenn Close and Meryl Streep or somebody, or Viola?
If
and
she
say,
asked me. And
but
here's
you
the
wouldn't
thing.
go up to them and say, hey, let's
Well,
run
I guess,
lines?
no, it's interesting because I feel like because they are the stars they
Yes.
are, and because of the way people act and respond to what that is,
Yes.
it depends on what they show up with. So I watch them.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm a supporting actor. It's what
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
always done.
But what if you were
if I was a lead, sure, why not?
then
you know
you'd
what I
say,
mean?
hey, Meryl.
Well, because you know what, you'd have a rapport beforehand.
Yeah.
You get on the phone, you talk to each other,
Right.
you get a kind of a feeling. That's what, really good, great actors do. And then you have, guys that, they, where's my Perrier and shit,
Okay, what about director? What director have you not worked
Oh
with?
man, there's so many.
that you wanna work
Scorsese,
with. Okay.
Paul Thomas Anderson
Oh,
is
Paul Thomas
huge.
Anderson would be great.
He's probably at the top of my list.
Yeah, right?
Everything he does is just phenomenal, man. Everything.
Who
He's a
else?
storyteller. Oh man, past or now? Elia Kazan.
No,
past.
now.
Now.
I'm trying to get you a job right now.
Oh, you are? Oh, okay. Oh man, there's Todd,
Like, you're available.
Todd Solondz is this independent filmmaker who's he does like art house stuff. He's
Yeah.
fucking amazing. Happiness. All
Yeah, oh yeah.
the big ones are. I think I'd love to.
What about
work
Wes?
with- what? Wes Anderson for sure. These guys who just
Tarantino?
man.
I asked Hauser was
I
on
mean,
here.
come
I asked
on.
Tarantino. But Hauser's
Hauser's funny, dude.
He's got that story.
He has
about-
that story.
Yeah.
And it really worked in his favor because everybody believed
Oh, totally.
everyone.
And then he had him call and find out if it was real. And it was a rumor.
It was a rumor, but it worked.
He was so funny about
But it's
that.
amazing because that stuff is God, man.
Yeah.
You know what I
You know
mean?
what's funny? I told the story last week about I met Quentin Tarantino. So I could say that I know him.
I've met him too.
And I could say that he was thinking about you in his next movie.
You could.
Just a rumor I've heard.
Well, he doesn't know if he's going to do this next film that he's working on. But,
I heard it was you.
well, you never know.
See how we get it going? Yeah.
Here we are.
No, but who else?
God, there's
Give
so
me another
many.
one.
Let me think.
What kind? Okay, let's talk about this. Do you prefer doing comedy or drama?
I love both, but here's the thing: I
Right.
approach them both the same.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yeah, because the stakes are always just as high,
Yeah.
and it's real. You got to believe it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If there's a guy like when I did Last Man on Earth,
Yeah. Right.
and he'd have all this stuff, you know what I mean? And he's dealing with all these girls, which so thank you,
yeah.
to Will Forte,
Oh, yeah.
who you're dating Cleopatra Coleman, January Jones, Mary Steenburgen, and Christian Shaw. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he wrote it in that I kiss all of them. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're all so wonderful, but he had this thing where you're juggling all these girls. Suddenly you're the it guy because there's only 5 people on the planet.
Yeah.
So all these girls, and how do you juggle that? And that's got to be believable.
Yeah.
Because so and so wants you for, and said, and so if you're, and so it's a real thing. So if you're having sex 3 times a day, you're depleted
Yeah.
and you're tired,
That's great.
and it's real.
Yeah.
And I approach everything like that. It's funny that I use that as an example.
Well, you know what's funny?
What about Chucho?
Chucho.
Oh!
Chucho was funny because
Okay.
Chucho.
We have a Chucho story, right?
Yeah.
Watch.
What's that?
The watch.
Yeah.
So I just met you,
Mm-hmm.
and you came over to my house this years ago,
yeah.
and we were gonna watch MMA, right? Fights. You come in, and Dylan, all of a sudden he calls me into the next room or whatever, and I said, "What's going on?" And he goes, "Dad," he goes, "That's Chucho." And I don't think I saw Neighborhood Watch or something. I go, "Who's Chucho?" And he goes, "Neighborhood Watch."
Hilarious.
And then, yeah, you had a great role because you had no line.
Well, here's the thing. I'll tell you a story about that. Early on in my career, I never said no. If somebody said, "Hey, here's something for you,"
Yeah.
it's a gift.
And it turned out to be great.
Well, I'll tell you, it led to so many other things. Because when you say no, you're saying no to the universe.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yes.
So they said, listen, would Mel be interested in doing this role? But here's the thing. There are no lines. He doesn't say anything.
Right.
And I thought,
right.
fuck yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who's in it? Oh, yeah, these guys.
Right.
Vince Vaughn's in it. Like, Ben Stiller's in it. You know what I mean? It's Akiva Schaffer who's the director.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, you know what I mean? Jonah Hill was in it.
That's right.
And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. Absolutely. This is a no-brainer. And I don't have to say anything.
Yeah.
I don't have to learn any lines.
Yeah.
Like, I get to go to Atlanta. I was like, hell yeah. And so I did it, and I became really good friends with Will Forte on the set, which is what led me to my job on Last Man on Earth. It was 5 years of just a gift. When I had my kids, and we bought our first home, and
Yeah.
none of that would have happened
That's
if I'd
right.
said no.
Yeah.
You know?
When there was do you remember the show Vegas with James Caan?
Of course.
I got one like day player,
Yeah.
no lines, same thing.
Yeah.
I was just showing up. I was excited. It was
Yeah.
in Culver City. They were shooting. And my wife April was excited. And I get there and they had changed some things around and rewrote some stuff. And I was playing the whale, like this rich guy that comes in with all the money that's going to gamble. That's
Yeah.
the target,
Yeah.
right? And all of a sudden they tell me, they go, okay, things have changed around. I go, oh, okay. I go, what am I doing? They go, you're gonna kiss like 7 different girls.
Right.
And I thought like he was joking.
Yeah.
And it was
Real.
radical.
Yeah.
Because I've been with my wife for 30 years.
But it's yeah.
Now,
It's
I'm
your
like,
job, dude.
I'm making out with this girl, and then they move me over in another room, and I'm
your
making
job.
out over here. And then April calls me. She's like, what are you doing? I go, you can't believe it.
I'm bringing home the bacon.
I go, I'm making out with 7 different girls. She's like, what? She didn't care.
Yeah. Well, it's April.
Yeah, just get that money.
Yeah.
That was my great acting experience. But anyway, what do you get? So what's the final thing that you'd like to leave?
You know what
with
I'd like to
anybody?
do?
Yeah.
I get seen as the funny guy a lot, and I've gone up and down in weight and stuff like that. And there's every once in a while I've been told, you could really play a heavy, like why don't you go into that?
Oh yeah.
What would it be like for you to play a real badass? You know what I mean?
I could see that easy.
Well,
for you.
but you get kind of pigeonholed sometimes.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd like to try that. I'd like to try something totally different that I've never done before that people haven't seen me. And that's when I do my own stuff. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I do, okay, that's the thing we've never seen you do.
Right.
That's what I want to do.
That's true. I've never seen you.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm always the nice guy, affable, loving, which is a
Yeah.
big part of me. You know what I mean? But it's always, it's yin yang, man.
Which is weird because
have it all in
at
us.
my age, that's all I'm getting now is the
the
bad guy.
badass.
The lead bad guy.
Right.
Which is great. I'll do it.
Yeah.
But I want to do, I'm funny.
And you
I
do
wanna
it
be
so
funny.
well, too. You know
But I
what
want
I
to
mean?
be fun. And
You want to
have
be fun and have laughs.
Yeah.
I love comedies. Here's the thing. It's a lighter mood on set.
Yeah, it's true.
I did that thing in New Orleans, and it was about a dude who loses his mind. You know what I mean? He literally goes down a rabbit hole and loses his mind. And that's not a lot of fun.
Yeah, right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of dark. And you, to some degree, and I've learned how to not to do this, but you bring some of that home. You can.
No, we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
I always like to ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
You're living this great life.
Yeah.
What is it? Like, how do you start your day? What do you think it is that contributes or gets you to afford this, stay in the moment, have this centered great day and this great life? What is it?
I keep it really simple, and I do what I was told. I do the things, right? So I'll just lay it out.
Yeah.
I get out of bed, I roll out of bed, and
Yeah.
I get on my knees. And I ask God to direct my thinking in my day, and ask him what he would have me do, not what I want.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Give me what you would want me to do.
Yeah.
And then simply I go and I brush my teeth, I turn on the shower, I take a hot shower, and then I go meditate and read something. And it just sets my day.
What do you when you're meditating? What's that look like? How do you start meditating?
I just
you
sit.
count, breathe, you sit. Or
I just sit and I watch my thoughts.
how long?
Man, I like to put in, because my mind is crazy sometimes. So I like to put in a half an hour.
That's great.
Sometimes
That's
an
pretty
hour.
good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
But you know how we are. We're
Yeah,
wound
I
up
know.
in the morning, man.
I
we
gotta
gotta
walk.
Yours is a walk.
Yeah, 5 mile
And the hot
walk.
tub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the hot tub.
Yeah. But we're
Yeah.
wound tight, man.
But you know
But
what?
then we get loose, bro.
That's right. Me and you, we're wild type, but we get to be loose together too.
It's a beautiful thing.
And you know what, Melvin? I just want to tell you, man, I love you,
I
buddy.
love you, Nick.
Thanks for coming out. Another savory conversation on Unsavory Fellow. My boy Melvin Rodriguez.
Aloha.